so I'm not negotiating that number.
Ooh, mercy. Well, this is getting interesting. The sweeping overhaul calls for slashing the tax rates for individuals and businesses, simplifying the nation's bewildering tax code, and nearly doubling the standard deduction that many Americans use every year. There are still some unknowns in the plan, like how are you going to pay for the cuts without driving up the federal deficit? And Democrats, well, they're jumping all over it, saying it helps the wealthy while hurting the middle class. So is it ultimately a good plan? Let me bring in my beautiful party panel tonight. She's the editor at the Daily Caller, managing editor at Olympic Media. Katie Freitas is here, along with comedian Jimmy Fallon, decorated author and brave patriot. And former New York Congresswoman and member of the Trump for President Advisory Board, Nan Hayworth-Reed, joins us. So, Nan, I'm going to start with you. You have been seated in the halls of power as a congresswoman, and you see what's happening with tax reform. What is the good, the bad, the ugly, and the chance it will pass?
The good is, Kennedy, that it definitely, the outlines do take us much closer to where we need to be vis-a-vis what we have now. Simpler, flatter tax code, great. Make the business tax, make the corporate tax as low as possible. That grows jobs. That's terrific. Eliminate the deductions, credits, preferences, etc. You know, most of them, except the most cherished ones, of course.
Yes, the mortgage and charity.
Right. So those outlines are all great. The challenge that we have, and I am indeed dubious that, believe it or not, in this Senate, if they try to pass it with reconciliation, in which they only need to get 50 Republican votes, being able to craft provisions once they get down to specifics. I'm not worried about the House particularly, but I am worried about the Senate. They won't be able to accommodate when push comes to shove. There may be some specifics that get in the way of getting those 50 votes.
And it's the specifics that are gumming everything up, every single issue, and it looks like pretty much anything you throw at the Senate, it's going to be a big loser. But the ultimate question is, if you're not cutting spending, but you are cutting revenue, how do you pay for it?
With a Facebook tax on uninformed posts about tax reform. Quarter a tax. Think about the money made off of taxing stupid political Facebook posts, and think about how it might curb the people writing them, so we didn't have to sit through a post.
That would actually bring in too much money for the federal government. We'd have
a surplus.
Well, they put Democrats in a box because on the one hand they claim to want free speech, but on the other they love taxes.
Oh, do they ever?
Well, I'm glad you brought up Democrats, because is there any bipartisanship here? I mean, is this an area where we've heard a lot of promises? We saw a little bit of bipartisanship, perhaps on immigration, certainly on the 3-month debt ceiling plan. But what will Democrats do with Republicans? What are they willing to do on tax reform?
Well, I mean, you've got a couple in the Senate, right, who are vulnerable right now and that are more moderate and are going to look probably
the Heidi Heitkamps,
right,
to Joe Manchins of the world
with Trump on this. But the problem with the rest of them is that no one wants to compromise, because you have such a loud, angry portion of their base that's going to consider any kind of work. Like, look at what happened with Nancy Pelosi at her town hall. She got shouted down for even
really funny though.
Considering, but it's a base that's saying, if you work with Republicans, then you have betrayed us and we will vote you out of office. So what incentive do they have, even though it's good for America?
Right? Republicans could take Bernie Sanders' tax plan, which I'm sure is completely socialist, and they could put Republican tax plan in the subject line and hand it to Democrats, and they'd be like, no, you hate poor people.
But that's why everyone's wrong to say, like, oh, Trump should have led with tax reform because of that support. He could have led with save the puppies, and they would have been like, that's racist towards cats and hamsters and exclusionary.
Someone's brave enough to say it. So how has the president handled the whole tax push? According to a brand new Fox News poll, 36% they like the job he's doing. 47%, ooh, they do not. As for the economy overall, still some optimism here. 49% approve of the president's strategy. 43% disagree. And as for the president's job performance in the White House, 42% on board. That's up 1 point since last month. That's moving in the right direction for him.
Play the song from the Jeffersons. Wow.
So what can we make of these polls? Is the problem that the tax sell is so complex that people won't know it's good until they see the fruits of its passage?
You know, Kennedy, I think we're seeing in the positive economic ratings. I think we're seeing the results of what the president can do. He does have some power as the executive to use the executive branch to cut down on regulations, cut down on burdens. He has done that. I think we're seeing that effect. But on taxes, I think what we're seeing is a discounting, taking into account what just happened with health care. And I think there's a certain lack
projection.
of faith.
People assume that the same thing's going to happen with tax reform.
And it's not really, it is reflecting on the president in that way, but they're really, if they could vote and say, well, whom do you really blame for this, the president or the Senate?
Yeah.
I think they'd overwhelmingly say the Senate.
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
I think so, too. And that's another reason why Mitch McConnell damaged goods.
Katie and I were talking about this in the green room. It's his fault on the economy that he's not getting credit, because it's the one
the president's fault or Mitch McConnell's fault?
It's Trump's fault from a messaging standpoint. It's all he should be talking about. It's his one big hit. This is like if you went to see Seal and he didn't sing Crazy. You know what I mean? It's the one song people know is kind of okay. The stock market is surging. It's doing well. They should, as Katie said, lead every press release with
every single time the economy and Wall Street hits some new level, the Dow, whatever, hits a new record. Why is there not an email in every single reporter's inbox from the White House touting that in a short little statement saying, look how awesome we are? Instead, there's nothing ever. They don't ever take advantage of the good things that are going on.
And who are these people who don't, if 37% of the people don't approve of taxes, like 47% of people don't pay taxes. So the nerve of these people to have, like, what more do you want from us as a country? You're already not paying. How can we improve it more for you? I'm disgusted.
They'll find ways, I'm sure.
I've never seen a full episode of Girls, but you know, I don't like it.
Good gosh. That's because they have laws against cruel and unusual punishment in this country. They wouldn't let you.
Oh, the party panel returns.